Welcome back to the world and to what the UN's migration agency says is a truly forgotten crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, describes it as a humanitarian catastrophe that's been going on for decades, a relentless mix of conflict, environmental disasters and disease outbreaks such as Ebola. The IOM says nearly 5 million people are displaced within the country right now, and although that's down from a year ago, more than 21 million are still in need of humanitarian aid out of a population of around 109 million. Some of the worst violence is in eastern Congo, where rebels seized the region's largest city, Goma, in January. Neighbouring Rwanda is widely suspected of backing the rebels, though it denies that. The US, Qatar and African mediators are trying to broker a peace deal. Well, with me tonight is Alex Simpson, the IOM's Chief of Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it sounds like a desperate situation. Is it fair to say things are going from bad to worse?
They're definitely not getting better in general, with funding cuts, further displacement of people, and a de facto force controlling large areas of the country. It's very difficult to help people with no money and very difficult access.
What's your biggest challenge at the moment, would you say?
One of the biggest challenges is funding. In 2024, the US gave 70% of humanitarian assistance to the Congo. IOM itself has lost a lot of funding. I have communities where we promised to build a camp. These people had moved from Goma, they'd been moving for 6 months, and now I can't build the camp because the funding has been cut. So it's very, very, very saddening. And
we should explain, I mean, that funding has been cut because Donald Trump has basically taken away the whole of the American overseas aid budget. So how much of a hole has that left in your budget?
In my budget, it was quite a large hole, but I would like to say that the US government is still supplying assistance funding, and we've recently got a very generous donation from them for our Ebola response. So we are looking at different ways of working with the new institutions which are coming out in the US, as we do actually have American funding to deal with a different kind of humanitarian crisis.
I mean, they're still funding you, but how much has it come down by?
I think we've lost, well, it was about half of our grant. So 30 million we lost personally.
$30 million in aid you've lost. And is it being replaced by any other countries? European Union or?
We've had step-up assistance from the European Union. For example, we have our displacement tracking mechanism, whereby we map population movements so we can target them with the proper assistance. And the European Union did step up to fund that, as that was cut. And we had some funding from some other European states, namely France. But there's not many countries with the economic power that can step up with that amount of humanitarian assistance in the immediate.
What would you say, Alex, you're most proud of in what your organisation's able to achieve and what your workers are doing out in the field?
I think the best thing we do is the solutions, the stability. We also work with ex-combatants, bringing them out of the jungle, giving them economic chances so they can reintegrate. We also work with the displaced to settle them. We have a community in Tanganyika. 4 years ago, they were in tents. Now they're in hard brick houses. They have a school, which we constructed with Swedish funding, and also partnering with our sister agencies, the IOM working with UNFPA, WFP. We've given them a health centre, and this is working with the local government as well, and the receiving community.
And you were talking before we introduce you about resilience building. How does that work? How do you get people to become resilient and sort of deal with these terrible challenges that they're facing with war and being displaced, so many of them, and the other sort of disease threats they face as well?
I think one of the first things for IOM, and I joined quite recently, which really appealed to me, is our mental health programmes. When you've lived in 30, 40 years of conflict, you don't know how to not live in conflict. And we find that traditions are not being passed down from generations, so people don't have resilience just in their habits. And I think some of the most amazing quotes is a man saying, "I didn't realise what I was feeling was wrong, and I didn't realise someone could help me." And so integrating people with a community approach, if something bad happens again, they have the inner resilience to keep going. Some of our studies have shown that 70 to 80% of the population have no hope for tomorrow. So even if we're coming with economic assistance, if they don't have that mental health side of the work that we're doing, they don't have anything. But then we do the economic assistance, teaching people how to be hairdressers, to make soap, to have a little bakery for the community. And then the community will build together in a way that they can move on and they have the community resilience as well as the individual resilience.
But you're saying they've got so used to being what they've been through, that they've kind of normalised the trauma that they've been going through.
Absolutely. And another gentleman, he says, "Oh, I'm so happy. I can earn my living without a gun." And off he goes and tends the cows that IOM bought as part of one of our resilience. And just to see that smiling face walking through a pasture with his cows. I mean, it's just to let people get back to this, even a very simple life. And these people, when we've surveyed them in our more stable provinces, most of them want to move out of camps, not to go abroad. They don't want to come to the UK. It's like -1% that want to come here. They want to live locally and have their normal life at home.
I mean, it is a forgotten crisis, isn't it? Why do you think the world just doesn't pay enough attention to what's going on in these parts of Africa?
It's been going on so long. It's been going on in secular conflict, stability, and people get bored. And I think people have so much going on in their own lives, it's very difficult to remember some person sitting thousands of miles away in an IDP camp, cooking on a little campfire. So, yeah, it's hard to remember that these things are going on when you have all the big news that hits the headlines every day.
Alex Simpson, thank you so much for joining us and giving us some messages of hope, anyway, from your extraordinary work in the DRC. As you say, so much going on in the world, but great to get a sense of what's happening there. Well, welcome back. Now, President Trump is